Well, the Trump administration pulled off a very interesting move this weekend. Is it legal, however, is the question.
The administration deported hundreds of Venezuelan migrants whom the White House says are part of a gang called Tren de Aragua to El Salvador. Trump signed an executive order Friday invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to carry out the operation.
That act gives the president wartime powers to deport illegal immigrants with little to no due process. Federal District Court Judge James Boasberg blocked that initiative on Saturday and ordered any of those deportation flights to turn around and come back to the U.S.
But within a short time, the migrants were already in El Salvador. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt denied that the administration defied the judge's order.
She said that the alleged gang members were already outside of U.S. territory by the time the judge issued that order. In a statement, Leavitt said, "As the Supreme Court has repeatedly made clear, federal courts generally have no jurisdiction over the president's conduct of foreign affairs, his authorities under the Alien Enemies Act, and his core Article 2 powers to remove foreign alien terrorists from U.S. soil and to repel a declared invasion."
The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, posted a video on X of the alleged gang members arriving to his country. That video itself stirred controversy. Here's some of it.
Bukele tweeted in part alongside the video, "Today, the first 238 members of the Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua arrived in our country. They were immediately transferred to CICOT, the Terrorism Confinement Center, for a period of 1 year that is renewable. As always, we continue advancing in the fight against organized crime. This time we are also helping our allies, making our prison system self-sustainable, and obtaining vital intelligence to make our country an even safer place, all in a single action."
According to Axios, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem orchestrated this plan, with few outside of their team knowing about it.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the administration sent 2 top MS-13 leaders to El Salvador as well. Trump wrote on Truth Social in part, "Thank you to El Salvador and in particular President Bukele for your understanding of this horrible situation which was allowed to happen to the United States because of incompetent democratic leadership."
Others are raising the alarm, however. Attorney Mark Zaid, a recent guest on Rising, wrote on X, "Court order defied, first of many, as I've been warning, and start of true constitutional crisis, ultimately will lead to Trump impeachment proceedings." Yale history professor Timothy Snyder wrote on Blue Sky, "You don't know who we just disappeared to El Salvador. Think about that."
Meanwhile, Congressman Wesley Hunt wrote over 200-plus criminal migrants were deported to El Salvador this weekend, but now a judge is trying to stop Trump's efforts. Why are activist judges fighting so hard to keep criminals in our country? What is their real agenda?
I think this is going to be perhaps one that we disagree on, although who knows. I think that the big worry here is the Trump administration's defiance of court orders. There is some vagueness around the edges about aircraft in US airspace, are they not, etc. The bottom line is a judge ordered a stop to this measure and the Trump administration basically ignored him in some fashion. That seems highly worrying to me, and I think a broader point that I find very disturbing, Robby, is this argument, and it was partly made by Wesley Hunt there, we also see it made by Elon Musk frequently, that if a president is elected and a judge then rules against that president's actions, that is a frustration of democracy, a thwarting of democracy. It isn't. We are not electing an emperor, we're electing a president who is still subject to the laws of this country. And a judge intervening in that is entirely legitimate.
Look, the Trump administration should comply with court rulings and should, if they don't agree with them, should go through the process of appealing them until it gets to a higher court that can rule on the issue. If they were ordered to turn around and got that order and just ignored it. I think that is obviously very, very, very bad. They should not do that. If they had already, and again, I'm not a constitutional expert, so maybe it is the case that the prisoners were already beyond the reaches of American law. They're being taken to a country that actually does want to receive them back. In this case,
well, I noticed that not even the Trump administration is claiming that the planes landed by the time of the judge's order. They're making this two-pronged defense, one of which is the planes were outside of American airspace.
Right.
But then secondly, that there was no legal basis for the judge to make the order that he made. The administration, of course, is entitled to make that argument in court. What it's not entitled to do is simply say, we've decided the judge is wrong, so we're going to do what we wanted to do anyway.
Yeah, that's all true. Let's not forget though what the kind of population we're considering here. I don't know exactly where public polling is on this issue, but I can imagine that removing this is not just illegal immigrants, but illegal immigrants who are being alleged or affiliated with a criminal gang, members of whom have engaged in violence and property destruction throughout our country. The Trump administration is trying to prioritize their removal, and this isn't even straining some kind of foreign policy situation because they're being removed to a country that is happy to take them. So I have to imagine doing so is proper. Now, it doesn't, you're right, it can be as popular as it wants, and if it's being done in a way that violates the law, I oppose that, and you have to afford due process, because can we actually state that every single one of those people is a member of this gang and so on and so forth, and that should be, conclusively determined before a court of law. I agree with that, but also these are, no one is contesting the immigration status of these people, right? No one is saying these are not illegal immigrants. They are illegal immigrants. Their right to remain in the country. People would be frustrated to learn they have this absolute right to stay in the country and not just be removed willy-nilly despite being parts of a violent criminal gang, right?
Yeah, but hold on. I'm not arguing that they have an absolute right to stay in the country. That isn't the argument. If people are proven to be gang members who have committed acts of violence and are in the country illegally, they should certainly be taken out of the country. What Trump is arguing is first that you can invoke this 1798 law that is primarily used where there is a declared war between nation states, which obviously isn't the case here. Then there's this secondary point, which I think is the argument that, well, the people want immigrants taken out of the country, so it doesn't matter how we do it. That's effectively the argument. And that results in people applauding actions by the President of the United States that are unlawful, or have in this case been held to be unlawful by a judge. And I think that is very, very troublesome. It gets back to an old English play, A Man for All Seasons. I don't know if that was part of your English literature.
I've heard of it, but I'm not overly familiar with it.
The reason I quote it is because it goes to the importance of law. It's set back in the time of Henry VIII. But one character argues that he would cut down every law in England to get to the devil, to get at the devil. And Thomas More says, and where would you turn all the laws being flat after that happens? And the warning is about cutting away legal protections in some sense of a popular goal, and the dangers inherent in that are very serious.
Let justice be done, though the heavens may fall.
Indeed.
Fiat justitia. No, we don't disagree. It should be done legally, and court orders should be obeyed, and they should go through the process of appealing this decision if they think it was reached in error by an activist judge who wants to allow criminal migrants to remain in the country. So I agree with doing that.
And the popularity of it is beside the point in terms of its legal rights and wrongs.
Well, it's beside the point, certainly, but we can point out that the American people have spoken very clearly about their desire to have particularly violent and otherwise criminal illegal immigrants removed from this country.
They have, but if a majority of the population are applauding an illegal act, it doesn't make it a legal act.
Well, that is true. Coming up on Rising, the Democratic Party's approval rating is reaching all-time lows. I wonder if that's connected to the discussion we've just been having. Stay tuned. We'll argue about it.